Hello and welcome to this special edition of Truth versus Hype. We have in the past on the show looked very closely at the mystery of job creation, said to be one of the great priorities of this government, but yet, why are so many asking, where are the jobs? Who better to answer that than Amitabh Kant, the CEO of NITI Aayog, the architect of Make in India, and someone who's considered a rainmaker for this government's economic push. Thanks very much indeed, Amitabh, for taking the time out to join us. And also joining us here is a very lively young audience who hopefully will grill Amitabh with piercing questions. So, Amitabh, let me just set the ball rolling on this whole jobs debate by first setting the stage as far as the numbers are concerned. Now, the number that is most commonly trotted out is that roughly 12 million new entrants to the job market every year. That works out to about 1.2 crores. So, that's about 12 lakh entrants every year. Now, this could be just everyone who's becoming eligible for a job, including perhaps some of these young people. Doesn't necessarily mean that they all have to be given jobs. But as far as the job creation data itself is concerned, and I'm sure you've been asked this several times, if you look at how many jobs are being created in the formal sector, and we put that graph up on the screen, you'll actually see that the numbers are falling. So in 2011, 9.3 lakh jobs a year, down to 3.22, then 4.19 lakh jobs, 4.93 lakh jobs in 2014, and in 2015, just 1.35 lakh jobs a year. So where's the problem?
Vasu, this analysis of journalists like you is based on Labor Bureau's statistics.
Yes.
Now, Labor Bureau statistics actually take into consideration just about 4%, 3.5% to 4% of the total enterprises in this country.
Right. These are just jobs in the what are called the core sector.
So the Labor Bureau doesn't take into consideration jobs with enterprises which have 10 or less people with power and 20 or more people without power. Okay. And it excludes 96%, 96% of the enterprises in India. Okay. So I'm not saying the statistics are flawed, but they are totally incomplete statistics to go by.
Okay, but if you just look at only these statistics, because these are the only ones we have, would you at least concede that India has a jobs problem?
Well, I would say that there is a challenge of jobs. And the challenge of jobs, needs to be confronted with. And to my mind, they do not bring out the correct picture of Indian economy. Because I have looked at this, because not as a statistician, but as a thinking Indian, I looked at this and I looked at the scenario on ground, what is happening on ground really.
What is it that is happening on the ground which you suggest tells you otherwise?
Yeah. So when you look at, you look at several figures on ground, several statistics on ground.
For example?
For example, if you look at the road sector, the road sector has registered the highest amount of roads constructed on ground. Right. It's seen the highest awards on ground. Right. If you look at, I'm talking about the infrastructure sector, then I'll come to the other sectors. Right. If you look at the electricity sector, the habitation connected, have seen almost a 352% jump. From 3,000 odd habitations, we've connected about 11,580.
Okay, fair enough.
One second. Yeah. Let's look at civil aviation, where we've, while the rest of the world has seen a decline, we are seeing a growth of almost 23% year after year.
Okay, let's not make this also, because you just had 3 years of this government, so you had a lot of summarizing of achievements.
I'm not getting into. So one is infrastructure. Yes. The second is, let's look at the rural areas. Let's look at the rural sector, where the government brought in this Mudra scheme. And in the Mudra scheme, almost 7.4, to my mind, the huge amount of flow of resources have gone in to support 7.4 million enterprises there.
Okay, and why is that then not translating into the sense that jobs are being created? Because again, if you were to look at, for example, these protests that we've seen a number of different social groups come out onto the roads, whether it's the Jats, whether it's the Marathas, asking for job reservations. Don't these indicate that some of the numbers that you're claiming are not matching ground reality?
No, I'm not claiming any numbers. I'm looking at the reality.
At the economy as
I
a
look
whole.
I look at Mudra.
Right.
I looked at the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in terms of housing, which has again registered a huge increase.
Right.
I looked at the credit guarantee scheme, where the base of the credit guarantee has been increased, and the MSME sector offtake has been almost, much more in the last 3 years than in the last 13 years.
Okay, let me just put it to the audience. Let me just take that to the audience, because we want to make it interactive and we have very little time, so keep your questions short. Let's get a question in on jobs. Yes, the gentleman over there. Are you convinced by these arguments? Or do you think we have a jobs problem?
I do, because there's a general consensus that I'm seeking a job right now, and there's a general consensus that jobs aren't there. So while the government has promised jobs over time and again, and there was a lot of positivity when the government came in power that jobs will be provided, but over time there's still a lack of jobs. Why is that so?
So Vasu, important thing to realize is that the nature of jobs is changing. I mean, none of us had realized that actually Ola will end up creating 6.5 lakh jobs.
Right.
6.5 lakh jobs. Uber has created in this country close to about 5 lakh jobs.
But
that's the private sector.
As drivers, I mean, I'm
as
saying
drivers.
not taking away anything from drivers, but I'm not sure if you have a group of people who want to do that.
No, not as drivers, as entrepreneurs. You're not a driver, you're owner of a vehicle. What I'm saying is that in today's world, the nature of job is changing. It's instead of large enterprises, it'll be entrepreneur-driven jobs.
Okay.
So you will see many different kind of entrepreneurs in this country, and for young people like them, you should look at doing a startup. You should look at becoming your own entrepreneur. Why should you look at a government providing you a job, and that too a low-paid job?
Well, maybe it's not so much as
you should be disrupting the system rather than becoming a job seeker from government.
Okay, maybe Amitabh,
I mean, there's nobody.
Maybe it's not so much that they're expecting a government job as much as expecting the government to facilitate conditions in which jobs are created. Let me ask you about. Let me ask you about the IT. Let me just move on quickly and ask you about the IT sector, because so much has been made about whether or not there is a problem with the IT sector, and something that is cited very often is this McKinsey report which came out earlier this year, which said that half of India's 37 lakh strong IT workforce will be irrelevant in 3 or 4 years. Firstly, are you convinced of that?
So what's the answer? As of now, Vasu, the IT sector remains a net creator of jobs in India and will continue to be a net creator of jobs till 2025. And to my mind,
so there's all these reports of layoffs that we keep hearing.
So if you go by the latest McKinsey report, which has just come out, yesterday, this particular report, which actually, contrary to what you've projected, has
I haven't projected. No, this is also McKinsey. So I mean, I'm not manufacturing numbers.
So instead of your hype, let me project the truth. And so this McKinsey report, for
what
instance,
does this say?
Says that in the last 3 years, we've been able to create from close to 20 to 26 million jobs. And what it says is that in the next till about 2025, the IT sector would remain a net creator and would create close to about 3 million jobs.
Okay, let me again go back to audience, and if anyone has a question on IT jobs particularly, yes, go ahead.
The IT sector, there have been so many layoffs. So how true is it that these layoffs are on a large scale? And is it going to be ongoing like this?
See, one must understand that the private sector works on market economics. There will be demand sometimes. There will be a fall sometimes of the demand. In the normal market economy, jobs must go, jobs must come. And if you look at the statements of TCS, the ex-TCS chief, Chandrasekhar, he says the IT sector remains unaffected and will continue to grow and expand. and so does the Infosys chief. So my personal view is that in the next 4 to 5 years, IT sector will continue to grow and would remain a net creator. It has to do several other innovations. It has to move into far more high-skilled jobs, but it would remain a net creator of jobs.